All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Do you understand?
Rightio legends, Chaos Chronicles, and we're back again with another video. We're answering questions again. So today, this question is from at Liam Wilkinson 2693. Says, "Hey Biff, be good to see a video on the different Supermax units like Charlotte and Acacia, etc. The difference between them and a day in the life in the units, including other prisoners you were in there with." All right, well, let's get into it. But before we get into it, as usual, if you guys haven't already subscribed, take this time out to jump down there somewhere, shoot that subscribe button, and if you hit that bell, you'll never miss any of my clips again, whatever device you are watching me on, be it a TV, computer, laptop, phone, whatever. You will get a notification that the Chaos Chronicles has just dropped a video, and you better get in there and watch it. And anyway, so yeah, if you haven't already done that, jump in there and do that. That'd be absolutely fantabulismo. It would be really appreciated. And yeah, all right, Liam Wilkinson 2693, let's get into it. So I guess, all right. So what is segregation, or what is the slot? So it is basically when you have been naughty in prison, when you've been a naughty boy, and you have to pay the piper for it. And so what does that mean? So it's basically jail inside a jail, right? So it's prison inside a prison. Some units are supermax. But yeah, so basically you get sent to segregation for doing naughty shit, and then you are on 23-hour lockdown. So let's use Port Phillip as an example, right? So if you go to the slot at Port Phillip, so you are going to go straight from wherever you got, say for instance you were in a punch on in the middle of the yard, so you're going to go straight from that punch on, and they're going to put you straight into the Charlotte spine, right? So Charlotte is the slot, segregation, whatever you want to call it. But the spine is, like, everyone calls it the spine because that's where everybody has to spend 14 days on LOPs, which stands for loss of privileges, which means you have no TV, no kettle, no anything actually, except for a pillow and a blanket, not even a sheet, nothing like that. And obviously, when you were allowed to smoke and stuff like that, you weren't allowed to smoke down there. And the only thing you can get down the spine, if you are lucky, you are not even allowed to write a letter while you're down there sometimes, most times, I will say. So the only thing you can get while you are down the spine at Charlotte is a book, if you are lucky. And they are putrid books that stink and that have had people's pissy, shitty, grotty hands all over them. And they're gross, but you will read them because, like, it's boring in the slot. And so, um, every single slot in Australia is 23 hours lockdown. So it's all a part of the Geneva Convention. It doesn't matter. Everyone has to do 1 hour out of their cell a day. It doesn't matter how long slot time you've got. Every single person is allocated 1 hour out of their slot per day. And yeah, so that's basically like the Port Phillip slot. So once you leave the spine, and you only leave the spine if you are on good behavior. If you do not, so one time I left the spine, I went out into Charlotte, like the slot unit, which has about 70 cells in it, and I'd just done 14 days. The day I got out, they said I was going to be getting a TV. I didn't get a TV. So I kicked up a stink and smashed me kettle to pieces and got put straight back in the slot for another 14 days. And yeah, so that was a little lesson to be learned. So a day in the life of the slot. What do you do in the slot? So you can't even explain the slot to someone. Like, it is such a crazy thing. So, like, 24 hours a day, there are people screaming at the top of their lungs to either communicate with you or to scream at the screws or scream at someone on the other side of the slot who's their enemy. There is always 24 hours a day some kind of screaming match going on between people. And, like, it gets a lot sometimes, but there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to deal with it. It's prison. A lot of fishing goes on. So, like, I actually haven't made it yet. Just reminded me, I haven't made a video on fishing yet. So that's going to be in my next lot of videos. So what is fishing? So fishing is where, so say for instance, like, I've got coffee and you're in the total opposite end cell, right up the other end and around the corner, I can get my coffee or anything to you for that matter just by fishing. And you need usually one or two people involved, but usually you can do it yourself. And so what you do is you slide something underneath your door. I'm not going to give it away too much, but something you strip the. So when you are in the slot, they give you like fireproof blankets. So exactly the same as the blankets that are in hospitals when you go to the hospital. So what you do is you start peeling off one bit of that string at a time. And then once you get to the end, you start on the next bit and you tie them together. And then pretty soon you've got a pretty long fishing line. And then so what you do is you put something weighted on the end of it. I won't say what, don't want to give the boys, I don't want to give the boys up that are still doing it. So you put something weighted on the end of it, and then you call out to the person, and then whoever's involved in it, you call out to them, and then you shoot it under your door as far as you can, and then a person a few doors down might grab onto that and then pull it into their cell, and then they'll do the same thing. They'll shoot it down a few more doors. But what can also be done is you can send it, like if you're on the bottom tier, you can send it up to the top tier. So you get the person from the top tier that might be in the cell above you to send their line up and over the tier, so it's kind of hanging in front of your cell, and then you send your line out underneath, and then that'll hook their line, and you pull their line in, and then next thing you know, your lines are hooked. There are other ways we can do it. There are other fishing methods like the toilet and whatnot, and also other communication methods. So people empty out the toilets in the slot and communicate to each other through the toilet, because otherwise everything you say in the slot is going to be heard by absolutely every single person that's in there, and usually when someone of some kind of stature is talking, everybody's listening and being fizz gigs anyway, so you can kind of hear a pin drop in those times. um, yeah, so people in those times will empty out the toilet water and all that stuff, and talk through the toilet. So you can send parcels through the toilet as well. So like, I'm not giving away any secrets. Everyone knows about this. So like, if you're in the cell next to me and I've got something that you want and you don't want everyone else to know about it, so I flush it down my toilet, and then you flush your toilet, and then so our lines will then join in the same pipe and then tangle up, and then you can pass things through the toilet. Is it gross? 100%. Do you get stuff on your hands? 100%. But still people still do it? 100%. So I guess now that I've explained the slot a little bit, there's like so many different levels of the slot, right? So you've got that slot there at Port Phillip. And then once you get released from there, if you are on long term, so long term is when you are doing any time over 3 months in the slot, that's deemed long term, right? And so basically, if you are on long term and they deem you long term, you are going to be in the slot for a long time, right? So generally, what happens, instead of when you get released, when your release date comes from the slot to get back out into the population, like they are not going to want to, if you've done a long time, they're not going to want to put you straight out in there. And like, if you've been in the slot for a long time. So this is where we introduce management units. So like, they have a few management units at Port Phillip. So last time I went there, they had Scarb North was a management unit. Borrowdale was a management unit, and one of the Alexes, there used to be protection and now it's a management unit for mainstream. Um, and then, so what is a management unit? So it still is the slot, except you have more privileges than you do have when you are in the slot. So they even have some management units do have 2 out cells. So I've been in a 2 out cell in the slot before in a management unit in Borrowdale. So they have two out cells in Borrowdale. And yeah, so all it is they're just trying to get you used to like back into prison, like without chucking you straight back in there after doing so much time in the slot, right? So you are allowed. So you go from only having 1 hour out of your cell a day to having 3 hours out of your cell a day, and then you go from having a run out by yourself, or run out with one other approved person, which is what you have to do when you're in the slot, even if you get a haircut. So I've done haircuts in the slot through the trap. So I've had people cut my hair with just their arm through my trap with the clippers in their hands, and I've done the same. And so, like, you have to have prior, like, so if you want to do a run out with someone else that's in the slot, they have to do all these security checks to see if you guys are going to be well together, so but excuse me, you can do runouts with other people and stuff like that. But when you move to the management unit, you're generally out with about 5 or 6 other people, so it just helps you mingle back into, like, the prison society without chucking you straight into the deep end after you've done a long time in the slot, which can absolutely. So, like, I've met some of the staunchest prisoners that were like staunch as staunch can be, and just 2 or 3 months time in the prison has sent them absolutely batty. You have to have your mind in check when you are in prison slot time, because, like, all you have is time to yourself unless you want to yell out to other people. So all you are is spending time in your head. So you have to be with it. Otherwise, you can come out of that time like very, very severely mentally damaged. And this is what happens to people. But then we have slots like they have at Barwon. So they have a normal slot at Barwon, which is just a normal slot like they have at every other prison, and then they have the Supermax slots. So we have Acacia and Melaleuca. So they are different again. So they are deemed as Supermax. They are deemed as our only Supermax units in Victoria, and it is where they hold the worst of the worst. It was where Carl Williams was unalived, was in one of these Supermax units. And so it's generally, so those Supermax units are generally for people that are spending like bulk amount of time in a slot, and then so they go to Supermax. And even if they continue to like misbehaving while they're in the slot, you will guarantee you that if you continue to do it, you will go to Melaleuca or Acacia. And so they are Supermax, but it is still the slot. It is still 23-hour lockdown. Everyone there wears red at Barwon if you are in the slot. And when you are in the slot at Port Phillip, every single person wears grey. And they also have this new unit at Barwon, which is probably, it's about 7 or 8 years old now, and it's called Illyria or Illyra. I can never say it, but it is also one step up again from like the Supermax, and it is for the worst of the worst. They have like the likes of Paul Haig, Victoria's serial killers and stuff in there. They even sometimes send like corrupt cops and corrupt screws and stuff to this place. And yeah, that's another step up again. And like so, but this Illyria is only for the most violent of the most violent. So yeah, you will only get sent there if you have proved to be a very, very, very violent motherfucker, and that's as simple as that. But yeah, there you go, mate. I hope, Liam, that explained, the slot. What do you do in the day in the life of a slot? So really, there's not much you can do. So all you can do is train. You look forward to your 1 hour run out because you might see someone that's on their run out, which means you get to have a chat with someone. But generally, you're never ever going to be in the same room as another one unless it's approved. So other than that, all you're doing is sitting back, talking to your mates through the vent in the door or through the toilets or whatever. And then the rest of the time, all I did was I used my slot time to come out more of an animal than I did when I went in there. So I just trained harder and harder, and like just trained and got fit. Like, so it's easy for me. I put weight on pretty easy in prison. So if I don't train, I put weight on. And so also, a lot of people use prison time as like a gladiator school or whatever you want to call it. And so, a lot of people train to stay fit because they don't want to become a victim, and that's the same in the slot. You've got nothing but time. Although you've got nothing but time when you are in prison, it is worse again when you are in the slot because all you have is time to yourself. So that's all you can do, really. Train, you can read. And then the next best thing you can do is catch up on some letters. The most healthiest thing you can do is keep your mind occupied when you are in the slot, you know? So sometimes TV can be mind numbing. And so, like, reading a book is good mind food, but also writing letters, you know, to your homies or whatever that are at another prison, and that doing stuff like that keeps your mind occupied and your mind entertained, and you find, you know, you won't be falling into like silly things and getting into trouble in the slot, you know. Other than that, there's not really many things you can do. You get a limited canteen spend what you can get. um, you're allowed to have a shave and stuff when you are in the slot, but they will come and give you a shaver, which is a shitty one blade razor, and they will come back in an hour. If you do not have that, you are getting like ramped, and you're probably going to get like jumped on by security as well. You know, they give you toothbrushes and stuff like that, but like canteen items are very bare minimum. You can only get like very small food items and stuff like noodles and stuff like that, like food to kind of hold you over until your next meal comes in the slot. Other than that, it pisses you off. They come and wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do a cell check and to give you your milk. And if you do not get up at that time and tell them, right, I want to use the phone today, I want to book a visit today. Some people that are in the slot can go on visits, but your visitors have to come down there. But anyway, guys, there you go. That has been the slot. I'm going to cut it off there because my dogs are going mental because someone's just got here. But I have been the Chaos Chronicles. That has been the slot. We out.